to Seeking to Remain. My name is Kate. Thanks so much for joining me today as we reflect on the 5th Sunday of Lent. If you can believe it, next Sunday is already Palm Sunday. It's gone very quickly. I don't know about you, but spring break for me just made March so fast. So here we are already, the 5th Sunday of Lent. If you're new here, thank you for joining us. We've been reflecting upon each Sunday's Gospel for Lent, and I think I'm going to continue this into Easter and do the Easter season as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, I hope that you stick around. I'd love to hear in the comments what things you've enjoyed, what you'd like to see more of, and we'll see what we can do. Jumping straight into our Sunday Gospel, not that we're rushing, because today's theme is time and God's time isn't necessarily our time. In this Sunday's Gospel is the story of when Jesus raises Lazarus. And I'll be reading initially from the start of the Gospel when Jesus first hears that Lazarus is ill. When Jesus heard this, he said, "This illness is not to end in death, but is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it." Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was ill, he remained for 2 days in the place where he was. As I said, God's time is not our time. He doesn't operate on our schedule. And here we see this played out. Jesus hears that a dear friend of his is ill. People know that Jesus has been healing. This is far enough along in the gospel that his reputation has spread. His disciples know that he is capable of going and swiftly alleviating this illness and making everyone happy. And Jesus sits, and he doesn't go. He sits for 2 whole days. At this point in time, Jesus has gone back to Samaria. We find out in the previous chapter of John that he had some issues in Jerusalem, had some run-ins in the temple, and so Jesus had gone north. Samaria was about 35 miles north of where Lazarus lived, in Bethany, which was only about 2 miles from Jerusalem. So even if Jesus had started walking immediately, it probably would have taken them at least a day, maybe 2, depending on the terrain and how many people followed and how many times they had to stop. But he waits. And he waits because there is something greater than healing happening. Something is going to be revealed, and he knows this, but his disciples know. And I can only imagine the chatter in the background. They know this is Jesus's friend, and they're talking amongst themselves. Why aren't we going? When are we going to start? How come he's not moving? But they wait, and they wait with Jesus, and they don't push him. Not that's recorded in the gospel. They are patient. And so when Jesus finally gets up to go, even though they're fearful because they had some issues, they all go. Not on their schedule, but on Jesus's. This question of time is brought up again further in the gospel when Jesus does finally arrive in Bethany. And while he's there, and he's hearing what has happened, and he has his interaction with Martha where she declares that he is the Savior and that she believes that, there are others around. And they say, "So the Jews said, 'See how he loved him.' But some of them said, 'Could not the one who opened the eyes of the blind man have done something so that this man would not have died?'" How often do we wish that Jesus would just step in and intervene and take everything over? We have the phrase, "Jesus, take the wheel. You fix it. Take it all." And we should give everything to Jesus. We should offer him everything we have, every moment of our day. But when we give everything to Jesus, that means we're also giving the schedule to him. He decides who to heal and when. He decides when to step in and when to let us flounder. He never leaves us. He never forsakes us. But his timing and his plan is not always in alignment with what we think is best. This is hard to hear, but it's also something to encourage us, because our timing is not perfect. His timing is. Our desires are not always perfect, but his for us are. As we're reaching the end of Lent, take some time to think about how this Lent has gone for you. Where have you seen Jesus show up in your life and to have been on his timing? Where have you struggled to see his timing in your life? When have you pushed and shoved and tried to make things the way that you want them? But Jesus has held back and said, no, this is not the right time. This is not the right thing. We walk with Jesus. He doesn't walk ahead. He doesn't walk behind. We walk right with him, step in step. When we try to pull off the path, he gently guides us back in his schedule, in his timing. Jesus does the unthinkable. He raises Lazarus from the dead. The people already knew that he could have simply healed him, but how much more do they believe in him now because he waited and because he did what they thought was impossible? He's waiting to do impossible things in your life, things you can't even dream of. That same Jesus who raised the dead is your friend, and he wants to work miracles in you, with you, and through you. As we continue to draw closer to Holy Week, start to make some plans in preparation for Holy Week. It is the holiest week of the year. It's the most important point of our whole liturgical season. And while, yes, God's plans and schedules are not ours, we can carve out time for him, specifically for him. That time in adoration, the time before the image that you chose to be silent with, be it in your home or someplace nearby. If you haven't yet, take the time for confession. Take the time for stations. Let yourself be immersed in these readings, in these mysteries, and these miracles. I hope that you have a blessed week, and I'll see you again next week. God bless.